Hello, today is Monday, May 29th, 2023. Today was a holiday for all of Koreans living in Korea. Of course, foreigners also living in Korea. Because the Buddha's birthday was the past Saturday, which is just normal holiday. So our government made a replacement holiday uh, to be designated the next uh, following Monday or any weekday. So today was the first following day, so that it was the replacement holiday. So I went to various places today as with the other 2 days and had some fun. But I always thought about immigrating to Canada, the United States, Australia, or New Zealand, or any other English-speaking countries, or even China, because I'm learning Chinese too. So let's find out how many ways are there to immigrate to Canada. How to immigrate to Canada? This one is from Canadim.com, Canadim.com, and I'm trying to read this article to help them spread their message to all over the world. And also, I would like to practice English by reading this precious article. So it's a dual-pronged, purely academic approach. So here we go. How to immigrate to Canada. From 2022 and 2024, Canada will welcome over 1.3 million new immigrants. There are many pathways to immigrate to Canada and secure Canadian permanent residence, but the Canadian team is committed to keeping things simple. Easiest ways to immigrate to Canada in 2023. The easiest way to immigrate to Canada will depend on your own unique profile or connections to the country. If Canadian immigration targets higher than ever, now is the time to start your immigration journey. It should be noted that there is no one simple way to immigrate to Canada. While some programs may be easier for you to apply to, the process is long and involves many steps. While immigrating to Canada does require a significant financial and emotional investment, the end result is worth it. Canada consistently ranks among the best countries for quality of life and is known for its positive attitude toward immigration. There are the four of the most popular ways for overseas applicants to immigrate to Canada in 2023. Number one, express entry. Express entry is Canada's fastest and most popular immigration program. Candidates that apply through the express entry system can receive permanent resident status as soon as 6 months. By 2025, Canada plans to invite half a million newcomers, of which a large percentage will come through one of the three streams of express entry: Federal Skilled Worker (FSW), Canadian Experience Class (CEC), and Federal Skilled Trades (FST). The express entry system involves submitting an online profile that is scored by Canada's Comprehensive Ranking System (CLS). To submit an express entry profile, you must first be eligible under one of Canada's above three federal streams. The Canadian government then issues invitations to apply for permanent residence to the highest ranking candidates and in the express entry pool. The express entry process may be the easiest way to come to Canada for certain candidates eligible to submit a profile. It can be difficult to meet the CLS cutoff in the federal draw. However, just by being in the pool of candidates, you could be nominated for permanent residence by a province. The cost of immigrating to Canada through express entry is typically about 2,300 Canadian dollars for a single applicant, or about 4,500 Canadian dollars for a couple. This does not include the settlement funds that must also be shown as a part of the eligibility requirement, which will vary by family size. Visit our Express Entry page to learn more about submitting a profile and how to increase your ranking in the pool. Number 2, provincial nominee programs. Throughout the pandemic, provinces continued to nominate overseas workers for Canadian permanent residence. By 2025, Canada plans to welcome 117,500 new immigrants through PNPs. There are countless nominee programs offered by Canada's 10 provinces and 3 territories. 10 provinces and 3 territories. Each PNP has its own unique eligibility criteria. Many PNPs require a connection to the province to apply for nomination. However, there are some programs that invite overseas candidates solely based on their ability to respond to the province's labor market needs. Each PNP has its own application processing time. After receiving a nomination, PNP candidates must apply to the federal government for Canadian permanent residence. The time it takes to process the permanent residence application will depend on whether the PNP operates using the express entry system. The cost of immigrating to Canada through a PNP is usually the same as express entry, with some additional fees depending on the province. Certain provinces don't charge a fee to process PNP applications, while others, such as Ontario, can charge up to 1,500 Canadian dollars. Number 3, business immigration. If you have experience managing or owning your own business, the easiest way to immigrate to Canada could be through a federal or provincial business immigration program. The federal government offers immigration programs for individuals that plan to self-employed in Canada or start up a business in Canada. There are also several PNPs specific to overseas candidates interested in starting a business in certain Canadian province. Business immigration programs typically require a significant investment in the company you intend to start in Canada. The amount required will depend on the program you are interested in. Many PNPs have regional entrepreneur programs that require a lower investment for candidates interested in starting a business in a less populated area. Number 4, sponsorship. If you have a qualifying family member that is a permanent resident or a citizen of Canada, family sponsorship will likely be the easiest way for you to immigrate to Canada. Canada offers several immigration programs that give permanent residents and citizens the chance to bring their family members to the country. This year, Canada plans to welcome 100 5,000 new permanent residents through family sponsorship programs. If your spouse, child, or grandchild is a permanent resident or citizen of Canada, you may be eligible for family sponsorship. Sponsoring a relative typically costs about 1,135 Canadian dollars. Additional fees will apply if the sponsor resides in or intends to reside in Quebec. The processing time for a sponsorship application will depend on the family member who is sponsoring you. For spousal sponsorship, applications typically take about 12 months to process from start to finish. Canadian immigration programs overview. There are more than 80 pathways to immigrate to Canada. Damn, 80 pathways. We will outline the broad categories of Canadian immigration in an effort to keep things simple for our readers. Click on the links to the specific programs to learn more about the requirements and qualifications needed to be eligible to apply. Immigration tip. Discover your Canadian immigration options by completing our free online assessment tool. In our simple form, we will evaluate you for the dozens of immigration programs available and let you know which one is best for you. Economic and business immigration options. Economic and business immigration options are for professionals who have skills that support the Canadian economy. Each program offers greatly in the qualifications required. Each program differs greatly in the qualifications required, so no one-size-fits-all description is possible. One-size-fits-all. Economic and business immigration categories include provincial nominee programs, express entry, Quebec immigration, investor programs, entrepreneur and self-employed programs. Other federal classes of immigration like the Caregivers Program, the Atlantic Immigration Pilot, the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot, and the Agri-Food Pilot are also options under the umbrella of economic immigration to Canada. Family sponsorship. Family sponsorship is a category of immigration available to the family members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents. Family members eligible to sponsor include spouse or common law, conjugal partner, dependent child, adopted or biological, parents and grandparents. In some circumstances, you may be eligible to sponsor other family members outside the above-mentioned categories. If you have no other eligible relatives to sponsor, you may sponsor the following family members: orphaned brother or sister, orphaned nephew or niece, orphaned grandchild. Interesting. Humanitarian and refugee immigration. Canada has an international reputation as a leader in accepting new refugees and other immigrants for humanitarian and compassionate reasons. A significant portion of Canada's annual immigration target is dedicated to admitting refugees. How much money do you need to immigrate to Canada? The cost of immigration to Canada is generally about 2,300 Canadian dollars or CAD for a single applicant, or about 5,500 or 4,500 CAD for a couple. This amount does not include the settlement funds that many candidates must show to be eligible for Canadian immigration. This amount will vary by family size, starting at around 13,000 CAD for a single applicant. If a candidate is applying through a provincial program, additional fees may apply. Proof of settlement fees may apply. Proof of settlement funds is not required for those with a Canadian job offer or who is applying under the Canadian Experience class. Yep, I have enough money to cover that settlement fees. 13,000 Canadian dollars is nothing in Korea because the living costs here are quite higher than those of Canada. All forms of business immigration require significant investment in Canada. It might require the applicant to have invested in a Canadian company or require an applicant to make an interest-free loan to the federal or provincial government. In most cases, you do not provide financial information to sponsor spouse or dependent child. If you are sponsoring other family members like a parent or grandparent, there is a financial requirement that will need to be met in order to be eligible to apply. Makes sense, right? It makes sense. It's not terrible, right? Yep. What the? In most cases, yeah. If you're applying under humanitarian and compassionate grounds applications, no financial requirements exist. Of course, they are poor or they are fleeing their original country, their birth country, so they don't have enough cash. The only time financial information is required under this category of immigration is if the refugee is a privately sponsored applicant. In that case, the Canadian group sponsoring the refugee must demonstrate that they have raised sufficient funds to sponsor the resettlement of the refugee candidate. What are the requirements to immigrate to Canada? Each immigration program has its own minimum eligibility requirements. It is important to verify your eligibility prior to applying. When submitting an application, the Canadian government will request various documents to verify your work experience, education, identity, and criminal and medical background. The types of required documents depend on the program to which you are applying. In order to determine the documents you will require, first you have to determine which immigration program is best for you. What is the fastest way to immigrate to Canada? The fastest method of immigrating to Canada is through express entry. Express entry processes most applications in 6 months or less. What is the maximum age for Canadian immigration? There is no specific age limit requirement for any Canadian immigration program. That said, in most categories of economic immigration, applicants 25 to 35 receive the maximum points. That doesn't mean all the applicants cannot be selected. Having substantial work experience, high language proficiency, connections to Canada, and advanced education can easily offset any points lost for age in economic immigration. Family sponsorship and humanitarian and refugee immigration to Canada do not use a ranking system and therefore do not have any penalties for age whatsoever. Is it easy to immigrate to Canada? With over 80 pathways of immigration, Canada has a range of options for all types of applications. That said, moving to a new country requires some effort. Some immigration programs require higher qualifications and more documents than others. Using the services of a Canadian immigration lawyer can greatly assist in the immigration process from start to finish. Canadian immigration lawyers are the point of contact with the government for your application. They handle the submission of your application and advise you on the documents you need, the ones you might want to include, and the documents you should not provide. To learn more about how the skilled legal professionals and lawyers at the Canadian law firm can help you, check out our Canadian Immigration Services page. Do I need a job offer to immigrate to Canada? No. The vast majority of all Canadian permanent residents do not have a job offer in Canada when they apply. While some Canadian immigration programs require applicants to have a Canadian job offer, there's a range of programs and options available to foreign nationals without an offer of employment in Canada. There are two main immigration programs that do not require a Canadian job offer. One, Express Entry. The Express Entry system is responsible for welcoming over 100,000 newcomers to Canada each year. If you are applying for an Express Entry program, it is likely that you will not need a job offer. In fact, about 90% of Express Entry candidates were invited to apply for permanent residency without holding a Canadian job offer, according to IRCC's Year-End Report 2019. Express Entry requires applicants to have adequate work and educational experience as well as language skills. However, you will not lose points for not having an offer from a Canadian employer. 2. Provincial nominee programs, PNPs. There are also many provincial nominee programs that do not require a job offer to apply. Some provinces, such as Saskatchewan, will instead use expression of interest (EOI) points-based systems similar to Express Entry to determine which candidates will be invited to apply for nomination. Other provinces, such as Ontario, Nova Scotia, will invite candidates directly from the Express Entry pool to fill specific demographic or labor market gaps. That means just by having an Express Entry profile in the pool of candidates, you have the opportunity to be invited to settle permanently in a Canadian province. So if you want to immigrate to Canada and you do not yet have a valid job offer, don't panic. There are many options available to become a permanent resident. Do not include a job offer requirement. Well, there are many options available to become a permanent resident that do not include a job offer requirement. Yep, that is missed there, omitted, which is grammatically wrong, right? There are many options available to become a permanent resident, do not include a job offer requirement. Fuck that. What is a permanent resident? A Canadian permanent resident is a citizen of another country who has been granted permission to live in Canada as a permanent resident. Once a person has permanent resident status, they have the right to live and work anywhere in the country. Permanent residents receive a significant number of benefits in Canada, including access to health care and social services, the right to live, work, and study anywhere in Canada, and protection under Canadian law. As well, after being a permanent resident for a certain amount of time, permanent residents are eligible to apply to become Canadian citizens. Notably, Canadian permanent residents do not have the right to vote in Canadian elections. Almost same in Korea, except that social services are limited for foreigners, and they cannot vote for presidential election, but they can vote for local elections too. And what else? Yep, we have some bias and racism going on in Korea. So the foreigners generally are treated not fairly 100% of times. So keep that in mind. And also, especially if you are people of color, like Southeastern Asians or blacks or Africans, or some other areas, of course, you are not treated fairly. As for me, I don't have any racism, so it's okay with me. What is a citizen? Canadian citizens may have rights and privileges in Canada. Citizens have access to healthcare, social services support under the law. A citizen can live, work, and study anywhere in Canada and has the right to vote in Canadian elections. As well, citizenship cannot be revoked or removed. All people born in Canada automatically qualify for Canadian citizenship. As well, foreign nationals can become naturalized Canadian citizens by going through the proper application process with Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. Can I work anywhere in Canada? Yes, that's true. Once a person has Canadian permanent resident status, they have the authorization to live and work anywhere in Canada. If foreign national does not have Canadian permanent resident status, then they must have the proper authorization to work in Canada. Usually this authorization comes in the form of a Canadian work permit. Can I bring my family to Canada? Certain immigration programs allow foreign nationals to immigrate to Canada with their family members. However, the family members able to accompany a foreign national varies depending on the immigration program. For example, those immigrating through Canada's express entry system are eligible to include their spouse and dependent children on the application, but not their parents. However, Canada has family sponsorship programs enabling Canadian citizens and permanent residents to sponsor their spouse or permanent common law partner, dependent children, and parents, grandparents, in order to determine whether or not your family members may join you. First, you must determine which immigration pathway you choose to pursue. Why is Canada looking for immigrants? Canadian cities and rural areas depend on newcomers to keep their populations growing and to support their labor markets. Canada also has an aging population. And without a robust system of immigration, Canada would be on a similar trajectory to that of Japan in the 1990s. But unlike Japan, Canada embraced immigration, and that has allowed us to maintain a large proportion of the population in prime working age between 25 and 54. This would not be possible without mass immigration to Canada. Yeah, we have the similar problem in Korea, the aging population, and we need a robust program to sustain the population growth in prime working age, between 25 and 54. Related links: work in Canada, become an international student moving from another country. Immigrate to Canada, work in Canada, Canadian work permit and visa process, study in Canada. Okay, so this is a good primer for immigration hopefuls for Canada. Yes, I am interested in becoming a Canadian permanent resident, but not in citizenship yet. I just want to live there for 2 to 3 years. Then I could decide whether I want to have a permanent residency or citizenship there. So Canada, if you allow me, I would like to go over there and work for you with a comparable salary that I receive here in Korea. I work for Korea Telecom, KT, the number one carrier in Korea. We are much better than Teleglobe, Vodafone, or some other, Orange in Canada. We are much better. So I am qualified to work for one of those companies. I could contribute well to your success. Yes, hey, IT companies and telecom companies in Canada, just contact me for your potential good leader in your business. I could contribute well to your success. Believe it or not, I'm a very creative person, so keep that in mind. Well, that's it. But before I close, we have 3% of battery life there. What expressions I learned from this article? Yes, prime working age between 24 and 54. One size fits all mentality. It differs depending on the program. Express entry program, family sponsorship program, orphaned brother and sister. What else? Fastest way, immigration, residency, protection, and so on. Well, that's it. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.